I was right about the NBA trade deadline. But before we get into that, let's run the intro.
And here we go. I hope you're hungry for nothing.
All right, Nathan Burnett, episode 89. I'm back with my man Jonah, and we're going to talk about the NBA trade deadline, kind of go through each of the trades, give our initial thoughts, maybe give some grades about how we think each side did about each trade. So let's just go ahead and jump straight into it. The reason why I say I was right about the NBA trade deadline is because I personally think that this NBA trade deadline wasn't that eventful. I know that some people are going to kind of debate that or push back on that because Harden and AD got traded. But I was correct, and Giannis didn't get traded. I didn't see any other all-star names really out there being traded, again, besides Harden and Anthony Davis. But to me, as I said in the previous episode, giving my predictions for the deadline, those are two very older aged players that are out of their prime. And so I really don't think that this trade deadline was that eventful. But again, other people see it differently. So, Jonah, what do you think?
I mean, I think you're partially right and partially wrong. I think you're mostly right. I think we did see higher volume of trades maybe than we anticipated. I don't know how many you had in your head, but I kind of got the impression that we were on the same page that this would be a very uneventful deadline, and I think there was a higher volume of trades than I thought there would be. But you're right in the fact that there was nothing major, nothing league altering like Giannis,
Mm-hmm.
and so I think for the most part you got it right. But there's
Yeah.
actually a lot to go through that we'll talk
Yeah.
about.
We do have a lot to go through. So that's where again I like tipped my hat that I said there weren't going to be that many trades. There were a lot of trades, so I was wrong on that. But again, I said nothing's going to be league shattering, and so far, I don't think there has been anything that's league shattering. So that's why I had to get that little good retention spike at the beginning, kind of rage bait people a little bit to say that I was right. So. But we will go ahead and talk through some of the bigger trades that did happen, and once again give our thoughts on it. So we'll go ahead and start with again what I think people will say is the biggest trade. It's between two big trades, Anthony Davis and the Harden trade. I personally think that the Harden trade is a little bit more impactful just because the Cavs got rid of Darius Garland, the Clippers got rid of Harden. But I have a YouTube short coming out here soon, so I'll try and paraphrase a bit of my thoughts without directly quoting what I have in that short. But I don't see why the Cavs traded Darius Garland, or let me rephrase that. I think I can see why they traded him. I still don't agree with it because he's been on the trade block for years at this point, and I've always been sort of the front man to say do not trade him, keep this core together, that sort of thing. But it seems like they finally pulled the plug, and I'm a little disappointed by it because I have always been sort of a supporter of that Cavs core. I've what would you say is the term that's an opposite of a bandwagon? Where like no matter if they're losing, you still kind of like defend them.
You like the underdogs,
Yeah,
maybe.
so
Yeah.
like
Mhm.
I back when I think it was 2021 where they lost to the Nets in the play-in, and then the classic Jarrett Allen meme came out of like the lights were too bright and everything. And everybody was clowning him. But I still like held strong because I made a video back then before they lost to the Nets. So again, in retrospect, it looked like I had a bad video, but I still held firm on my belief that I said the Cavs have the potential to build something that resembled the 2014 Spurs is what I said. I was like, you have Evan Mobley, he's your Tim Duncan, you know. And then I have another guest who I'm good friends with that's been on several times called Swiss Eel, who's a Spurs fan. And he said Darius Garland, and I don't want to misquote him, not in terms of ceiling, but in terms of play style, said that he Darius Garland reminded him of a mix between Tony Parker and Kyrie Irving. Um, and so like I kind of took that. I looked at everybody's stats. I predicted that Evan Mobley would be defensive player of the year. Like I predicted that back then as well. I think I even got the year right because like I was like I think in 3 years Evan Mobley would be defensive player of the year, and then like in 3 years he became defensive player of the year. So like again, I could see the potential for this Cavs lineup, and I was like, don't give up on it. Like hold like freaking the Wall Street people of Reddit, whenever they were talking about GameStop, they're like, diamond hands, hold, hold, hold. I was like that way with the Cavs. I was like, just hold. Like, come on, we can make it work. But it seems like the Cavs finally gave up. They got rid of him. And I fully expect to see Darius Garland ball out because he's been mentored now by Donovan Mitchell. He was mentored by Ricky Rubio, which I have a whole video about. So he's definitely got that veteran leadership that he needs. And again, I've talked several times about that with the Cavs, where I loved the way that Donovan Mitchell treated Darius Garland. There were moments in the playoffs where Darius Garland would miss a shot. Donovan Mitchell would get the rebound. Darius Garland would get back open. And in order to help Darius Garland's confidence, like Donovan Mitchell would pass it back out to Darius Garland and be like, shoot it again, you know? So I really loved that sort of relationship that they had. And the Cavs were like, listen, man, we've given this core like, what is it, like 4 years now? I think it's time. And I was like, damn, man. And then Harden, I can go on a whole rant about as well. One of my most disliked videos on the channel was actually a take that I was correct about. And yet people just didn't like it because I was calling out the hard truth that they didn't like. That I said, this was when Harden went to the Clippers. And I said, Harden will not work out for the Clippers. He's been on 4 teams in the past 4 years. Like, yada, yada. I was like, he's going to be a disappointment in the playoffs. And then I have like a literally 12% like to dislike ratio on that video because Clippers fans flooded that video saying like Harden's going to take us to the Eastern Conference Finals. Western Conference Finals, like all that. And I literally made a bet with somebody in the comments of that video where I bet them because they again were like Harden's like we got Kawhi, we got Harden, they're gonna take us to the conference finals, and I bet them and I said I guarantee you they don't even make it past the first round past Dallas, and then they lost in 6, and I was like I tried to tell y'all, but yet even though I was right, again my most disliked video. So I predicted that Harden wouldn't be on the Clippers that much longer. He got traded as well, although I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. It looks like this was initiated by the Clippers, not by Harden himself. But still, my point stands. But anyway, that's all that I have to lay out about it. And Jonah, you can go ahead and give your thoughts, man. Are you frozen? We might have lost Jonah, guys. Oh, we got him back for a second there. There we go. Yeah, you're back. Oh, I said, like, Jonah, give your thoughts. And then I just see you staring at the camera. And I was like, I think we lost him, guys.
Those are all the thoughts I have. My mind is just blank. I mean, no, I mean, I'd say I half agree, half disagree. So the part that I disagree with, I'll start. All right, you know what? I'll start with the agreement. I agree that Harden is not the guy who's really going to transform this team. I mean, it's never worked, and I don't see why now all of a sudden at age 36, not on, a current contender with all the pieces around him to fit his game exactly. I don't see why you suddenly think this is what's going to do it. I just don't think there's any proof, as you say. The part I disagree with is on the Darius Garland side. I mean, I like him. I think he's a really good player, and I think he has a lot of potential to continue to improve, but I just think that his inconsistency, his size alongside Donovan Mitchell, maybe just the defense, the inconsistency, it just wasn't working out. And you say like 4 years as if that's like, oh, we're giving it a shot this season, then we're giving up right away. I mean, this core has had opportunities, and they've had seasons where, I mean, I think when were they the number 1 seed? Like maybe 2 years ago, I don't know. Like they've been good, they've been really solid, and kind of all either entering their primes or in their primes for a little while now, and it just hasn't worked. And I think Darius Garland, I mean, maybe justifiably, maybe unjustifiably, has kind of gotten a lot of the blame from the front office. But I think that something had to be shaken up with this group. I don't think that's too hot of a take considering just the lack of success. And I think it's easy to point to the guy who's been inconsistent, not the best on defense. You're obviously not getting rid of Donovan. And I think, keeping the two big men, I think that's also such an important piece of this team. So I think, Darius Garland was the odd man out. And I think it's a smart decision to let's try and, rotate something. Let's try and figure out a shift. I think Harden was, I'll agree with you on the fact that Harden's not going to be the guy to come in and really make that difference. So I think he maybe, at least as far as the rest of the regular season goes, I think he's gonna play very well for them, and I think he's gonna actually raise how they're playing currently. But then in the playoffs, it's never really worked out, and who knows how long he's actually gonna be a Cleveland Cavalier. But I mean, I don't know if you say they had 4 years. Like, where did you really see the team going when you say give this core a chance?
Well, I'm gonna kind of push back a little bit. I've always been a person that has said Darius Garland is not the problem of the team, and like you bring up his inconsistencies and things like that. I've always said the enemy of this team has always been injuries, and so that's why I said I don't think you need to trade anyone. I think you just need to work on being healthy, and obviously that's something that's sort of like RNG. But again, like I think if this team stayed fully healthy. Like, I'm not even exaggerating, and I know people are going to comment and, like, fight me on this. But again, I've been saying this for the past 5 years. I genuinely think if this team had, like, some sort of, like, you're playing 2K and you have the first aid card and it fixes any injury.
Yeah.
If this team had, like, something like that where they could instantly fix any injury and never get injured, I think that they're a championship team. I think they are make it to the finals and could even win because as soon as they got Kenny Atkinson, right, they were a top seed, like they were dominating, and then once they got injured, they started to fall in standings again, and that seems like what has happened every single year. Even if we go back to that Nets series where they got blown out in the play-in that I referenced, I'm pretty sure somewhere around that time they had like a bunch of injuries as well. And then last playoffs, I believe they played the Pacers, if I'm correct. It was either that or the one where the year that the Celtics won, they played like the Pacers, and they had like literally the entire roster was out. And so it's literally just like it's just bad luck that like it won't like not just the fact that somebody's injured. It's the fact that once one person on the team gets injured, it somehow seems to domino throughout the entire starting five. Like, it's not just Darius Garland's injured. And I get the notifications because I have him on my fantasy team, too. I have Donovan Mitchell, Darius Garland, and Evan Mobley on my team. So every time the Cavs play, I get, like, triple points. But then I get the notification that it's like Darius Garland's out. And then the next day, Donovan Mitchell's out. The next day, Evan Mobley's out. It's like they get injured somehow back to back to back, one after the other. All like every single player gets injured like 2 days after the other. And then the entire starting five is out for like a week. But I genuinely think that they had the core again to sort of resemble that ball movement where every single player had like its pure position to play. Like Donovan Mitchell was like the point guard. Darius Garland was like the shooting guard. Evan Mobley was like the power forward. Like it's very different from what we've seen in so many other teams for like the past several years where so many people are like multi-positioned. Like again, I bring up fantasy just because it's like a funny comparison. But if you get Luka on your fantasy team, I don't know if you've ever seen this, but like I don't know if you ever play like fantasy basketball the same way people play fantasy football. But if you get Luka on your fantasy team, it shows like each position everyone can play. Like Evan Mobley, you can put him power forward center. Giannis, sometimes it'll let you put him at center. Luka, it literally says point guard, shooting guard, small forward, power. He plays every position besides center on fantasy. And so many players are like that on different teams. And I really think that the Cavs were one of those teams that was kind of holding on to like the 2000s, 2010s of like, this is your position, play your position the best that you can, and somebody else will take care of the other position. And that's the best way I can explain it. And so it just disappointed me seeing Darius Garland gone because I really don't think that he deserves the flack for it. But I know that he's sort of been the scapegoat for so many years for this team. So I'm not surprised by it, I guess is the word. But again, I'm just more so disappointed that I don't want to use the term short-sighted because that's not the right word. Because again, people will say like, well, he's tried it for 4 years, and like 4 years is a decent amount of time in sports. But I don't know. It's just you couldn't hold on to like that last little bit of hope still. You know what I mean? But again, I see the arguments of like saying like, well, we made it work for this many years. But I really just love that core so much. I think like, again, everybody just has a clear job to do, and I felt like they did it. And it was just a matter of if this guy's not on the court, then the team isn't functional. But again, with Harden, like going back to Harden, I've seen some people say that like Harden is somehow going to boost the Cavaliers, because I released a clip from our last episode talking about how I don't think anything in the trade deadline is going to happen, right? And somebody responded to it being like, oh, well, Harden just got traded. And I said, like, again, that I didn't think it was going to be, I didn't care much for the Harden part of it as much as I cared about the Darius Garland part of it. And like I said, like, you know, again, he's an out of prime, like, aged player. And they responded to me with like his stats. And we're like, well, he's 35 or however old he is. Like, he's 35 and he's still averaging like this many points a game. And I responded to him and I said, yeah, but now post his playoff stats. And let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Because like the last 3 years in a row, he's gone like 0 for 11, 0 for 9, 1 for 12, or whatever the numbers are in the playoffs. And so I was trying to tell this person, I was like, even if the Cavs do well, where somehow they make it past the second round in the playoffs, I'm like, you're going to put Harden in, and you're going to see the pattern that we've tried to tell you, like everyone's tried to tell the league about Harden for the past 3-4 years, that once he gets in the playoffs, dude is not even there. Like, so, any more thoughts on the Harden Darius Garland trade, or you want to hop into the next one?
No, we can hop in the next one. I mean, I don't think I think the only thing I'll say is I just don't think the Cavs, like with this core, we're gonna win it, just from my perspective. But I think we're definitely on the same page that Harden's not gonna do anything come playoff time. So I don't think either way they were really contenders. And you know, I don't know where they go from here with Harden. And once they realize like, oh, this isn't gonna work out, well, I'll be interested to see what they do. They do have a lot of assets, so they're still in a good position theoretically. They just need to maybe in the next year or two play it smart with those. But yeah, we can move on to the next one.
Yeah, all right, for sure. So before we get into the AD trade, I wanted to get through the Harden trade first before I did some announcement stuff to again kind of help the YouTube retention. I've noticed whenever I do announcements at the beginning, you know, it's not great because people want to hear about basketball. So I try and get through the first take before I do the announcements now. But a few announcements that you guys might be excited about. I went ahead and changed some logos around all socials. So I made a YouTube post about that, so go ahead and check that out. All of the old logos are still going to be used here and there. As you can see on the podcast overlay here, we still have the old logo because I think it does look good in the podcast overlay. But as for profile pictures, YouTube banner, all that good stuff, I decided to update those because it was simply time to update it. I made a YouTube post kind of explaining that. As always, check out the merch, link in the description, all that good stuff. Jonah, I know you did it at the end of the last episode, but we'll do it in the middle of this episode. Do you want to drop a discount code, and then we will go ahead and hop straight into that AD trade?
Okay. Discount code. I was right.
I was right. Oh, that's a good one. Uh, I'll put it up on screen here. We'll spell right as in RITE. So IWASRITE. That'll be awesome. Okay. So we're gonna hop into the Wizards trade here. I have the player transactions pulled up on my phone. So Washington Wizards, received forward Anthony Davis from the Dallas Mavericks, received guard Dante Exum from Dallas Mavericks, received guard D'Angelo Russell from Dallas Mavericks, and received guard Jaden Harding from Dallas Mavericks. The Dallas Mavericks received guard Tyus Jones, draft consideration, forward Chris Middleton, forward Marvin Bagley, and guard AJ Johnson. So a lot of things to say about this trade. Of course, everybody goes back to the Luka trade. I do kind of want to look at it past the Luka trade a little bit, because I have kind of taken a step back, removed Luka from the equation. I do think that the Mavs kind of did okay with this. Obviously, like, everybody's taking the stance of like, oh, well, the Mavs traded prime Luka for out of prime Middleton. But taking a step back from the Luka part of it, right? They basically traded an injured Anthony Davis that they knew like is not going to play for like expiring contracts and draft consideration, as it said in the trade. So I kind of think, like, again, Luka part aside, that the Mavs kind of won this trade. And that may be a hot take, but the Wizards already came out and said that Anthony Davis released a statement that he's saving his body for next season and he's not playing any more games for the rest of the season. And I saw a bunch of people talk about that whenever House of Highlights or Bleacher Report, whichever one of them was that posted it, they were like, breaking news, Anthony Davis like sitting out remainder of the season, and like all the comments were like, breaking news, grass is green, the sky is blue, stuff like that. And so that's why I kind of think that like the Mavericks won this, because they essentially traded like zero playing time for at least something. And the Wizards, I again, kind of like the Harden thing. I made a video about the Wizards, and the Wizards fans freaking rushed to my video and defended their franchise. So I got a lot of pushback on this take, but I made sort of the meme take of the Washington Wizards is where careers go to die. I said, like, you think about Michael Jordan. What are the other ones I talked about? I can't think of them off the top of my head right now, but again, I made a whole video about it, and I was talking about like all these different careers. They went to the Washington Wizards, and as soon as they go there, they were averaging 12 points before. The moment they go to the Wizards, averaging 3 points a game. Like, they literally get their points chopped in half. And again, Anthony Davis, a lot of people are calling for him to retire, because once again, he's not playing, he gets injured, and now he's on the Wizards. So I think this is just a step in the cycle that I was mentioning. Like, every player goes to the Wizards, and then 2 seasons later, they're like, all right, I'm announcing my retirement. So I think that's what we're starting to see. Trae Young's a different story because he's a bit younger, but I do think Trae Young's stats will go down. But I heard somebody else compare the Wizards roster, and they said, I would love this roster if it wasn't made out of toothpicks and bubblegum, is what they said.
Yeah.
And then for the Mavs, again, I predicted that they would trade Anthony Davis, injuries aside, because I mentioned you now have a rookie of Cooper Flagg, and then you have the veterans of Kyrie and Anthony Davis. And so I predict that they're going to get rid of Kyrie here soon as well, which could be a hot take. But I think they're going to get rid of the veteran presence and go all in on young stars for 2 reasons. One, you can't have this weird mix of veterans and rookies on the team. Veterans, yes, are good at mentoring, but like the veteran type level that Anthony Davis is, where again, like he could retire in the next few years, like it only works in certain situations, like Chris Paul with the Spurs, because we only had Chris Paul for one season. Anthony Davis has now, been on there. Well, actually, Anthony Davis hasn't been there for that long, but you have Kyrie as well. Is my point. You sort of have this weird mix, like Klay Thompson's there. Like you have this weird mix of like young players and veterans. You need a clear direction of veterans win now versus develop rookies. You can't do both at the same time. The second reason is obviously the Luka trade plays part in this, but I don't think that the Luka trade was the only reason that Nico Harrison was fired. I've mentioned that ever since Mark Cuban became not the majority owner of the Mavericks, that the new owners sort of seem like they want to put their stamp on the team and sort of make it their Mavericks. And so they want to sort of remove any sort of like history or lingering effect of Mark Cuban's like influence, right? Because Nico was a hire of Mark Cuban. And so I mentioned that with the Nico firing, that I said, I predict that AD and Kyrie are on their way out. And then, again, this was before AD got injured for the millionth time in his career. I was like, I have a feeling Klay Thompson, Anthony Davis, Kyrie are going to be on their way out after the Nico firing, because I have a feeling the Mavs, like the new Mavs owners, they want to have their era of the Mavs that is detached from Mark Cuban's era. And so they're going to go in on Cooper Flag. They're going to make their own trades, their own draft picks, things like that, so that when you look at a timeline of the Mavs, it's Mark Cuban's era and their era, and there's no blend in between. They want like a clear, like, this is our team now type roster.
Yeah. I mean, their era is not off to a great start.
Yeah.
I think to like touch on your point about like veteran, I think the key word is win now veterans. Like I think we all know it's great to have veterans on teams to mentor the young guys, but when it's guys like Kyrie Irving who are going to be taking away touches from guys like Cooper Flag, right? Especially at the point guard position, that's when it I think becomes an issue where, Cooper Flag's going to have to shift into a win now role that's going to be reduced, and it's going to be, maybe it would win him a couple more games, but it would definitely hinder his development. So I agree that I think Kyrie's gone. I think for good reason. You really want to invest in these young guys, and if you have veterans, you want them to just be role players off the bench, not even doing much, just kind of like mentoring these guys. I think in terms of like I don't really see a winner of this trade. I mean, I think obviously the Luka trade happened, and we have to kind of just move past it and say like the Mavs are in a position right now where they are nowhere near contenders. They have one extremely promising young guy in Cooper Flag, and then they have a lot of young guys. They have some assets still, and I think there are several moves and several years away from anything exciting. So, maybe from like a tactical standpoint, they might have, gotten better value out of this trade. But I also think that I also understand why the Wizards made this trade. And I think in a way it kind of benefits them as well. And it's the same reason that I kind of said the Trae Young trade, which is that, I mean, that organization has had nothing going on recently. And, like I can't imagine their ticket sales, their jersey sales are high at all right now. I don't think like I went to a Wizards game maybe like 2 years back. I was in DC, and it was like unbelievably cheap, and no one's there, and it's just no one's cheering for anything. And why would you if the team is so awful and there's nothing going on? I think bringing in Trae Young and Anthony Davis, I mean, do I think that's a winning formula? Even if, let's say, Anthony Davis magically is healthy, I don't think like they're going to be that great. And maybe if Anthony Davis is healthy and somehow Trae Young can be decently impactful, like maybe they're playoff contenders. I don't think anyone really expects much out of the team, but I don't know if that's even their goal. And I think we have to consider that they're not really trying to contend right now.
Yeah.
I think they're just trying to revive themselves from being a dying franchise. So I think they won in that sense, where they're not getting the big names that the Wizards were going to be the Trae Youngs, the Anthony Davises, right? Like I I don't think they had any shot of getting any real star, and they didn't even have like the greatest of assets for such a young team that, I mean, they have okay assets, but I think this was I don't know. I mean, I think this was a good move in one sense where they're kind of just saying like, hey, we need to revive ourselves a little bit and we need to start to bring some fan excitement and, maybe we'll figure out the future later. And I also think it was maybe a little bit irresponsible for them to take on a guy like Anthony Davis, who, as we can probably assume, is yeah, he very well could retire in the next couple of years or just
Yeah.
be injured like 90% of the time, right? So it's
Hmm.
I think it's a risk that they're taking and saying like, maybe he'll play enough to bring us some excitement. Trae Young's going to be exciting for us, and maybe the combination of those will just get us in the playoffs. And if we're in the playoffs, we're happy. I
Yeah.
think they would be more than happy to be in that like 8, 7 seed, whatever, like zone if they can get there. So I don't think that they lost the trade. I
Hmm.
agree that like from a player to player comparison and asset to asset trade perspective, the Mavs won. But I think the Wizards got what they wanted out of this trade deadline,
Hmm.
and so I think it was kind of a zero sum game. Like I don't think either team feels great, to be honest. Even if we ignore even if we pretend that the Luka trade never happened and Anthony Davis was just on the Mavs, I don't think the Mavs are really thrilled right now about
Yeah.
much, and neither are the Wizards, but that's just kind of my take on it, which maybe a little bit bland, but I don't think either team won. I think
Yeah.
both of them kind of did what they had to do given their situations.
Yeah, I just like I feel like the Mavs are gonna turn into the Spurs during the DeJounte era, where it was like during the DeJounte era. What I mean by that is, like before DeJounte, we had DeRozan and LaMarcus Aldridge, right?
Mhm.
And so it
Yeah.
was like, okay, we got cool forwards, but now we have no guards. And then we got DeJounte Murray, and it was like, well, now we got DeJounte Murray as a guard, but now we have no forwards. And we kind of flipped
Yeah.
back and forth between that, and
Mm.
that's what kept us in purgatory, where it was like we're good in the front court, but now we have no back court. Now we have a back court, but we have no front court, and so on. And I feel like that's what the Mavs kind of have done to themselves. Because I
Mm.
made sort of a dig in the short that I'm gonna have coming out about this trade, where I said, "Oh, sweet, the Mavs got Marvin Bagley III. That's an awesome forward. You know what would be a great guard to put next to Marvin Bagley III? Luke. Oh wait, yeah. Oh yeah. So it's like
Sands are gonna hate you, dude.
yeah, I know, but it is
You're
what it
already
is,
rubbing in like a sore wound. You're rubbing in like some sore wounds from them. I mean,
I know. It is what it is. Um, but I'm going to gonna kind of go ahead and lightning round here.
okay.
So it doesn't have to be super quick. I'm not gonna be like give your take in under 30 seconds.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
again, Harden and AD were kind of like the big ones. So I think these
Mm.
ones we can kind of keep under 5 minutes, under 10 minutes.
Yep,
Um,
yep.
but the Warriors got Kristaps Porzingis. The Hawks got Jonathan Kuminga and Buddy Hield. I said Buddy Hield would help their spacing of the floor with the 3 point after losing Trae Young. Jonathan Kuminga, decent forward. Kristaps Porzingis adds to the Warriors, as I've seen many Warriors fans complain about their current center. I've seen people have gotten dark and dramatic on the Warriors fan base about their center. I saw someone, I forget what their center's name is, but I saw somebody be like he needs to be drawn and quartered.
Horford,
Yeah.
Al Horford.
No, not Al Horford. Who is it? Let me look up the roster.
Because I think
Uh
Al was starting like I don't know about the most recent game, but a couple of games ago I saw he was starting.
it's that other guy. What's his name? Uh is it this guy? No, it's not him. What the fuck? Um but he's got like a international name, kind of like he's got an international name just like Porzingis has. I thought it started with like an N. Um But anyway, if I find his name, I'll put it up on the screen during the recording. But I've seen a lot of people complain.
Quentin Post?
You what? Maybe
Quentin
he,
Post?
nah, maybe he's maybe he's a power forward. Let me find out his name. But
Oh, power. Is it? Yeah, I'm just looking at the roster. Is it Santos?
no, he's got like a really long last name, just like Porzingis does.
Oh, okay.
Um,
Whatever.
whatever. Yeah, I'll look it up. Maybe it is Quentin Post. But I saw a lot of people joke about like they got like dark and dramatic with it, where they were like, I saw somebody say like he needs to be drawn and quartered for like the trash playing time he's had. So like the Warriors are definitely happy to have a better center now. And again, I think the Hawks do well in this trade. So I think both sides kind of got what they wanted. I think it definitely helps both teams. I definitely don't think that the Warriors are going to go anywhere crazy, especially with Jimmy Butler being injured. I made a video about that. I really think we're starting to see the end of this Warriors core, this Warriors quote unquote dynasty. I think this Warriors dynasty has been over ever since Clay left after 2022.
Yep. Yep.
But this is definitely like the nail now that Jimmy Butler's out, because they traded pieces to get him, and it's such ironic timing because I don't know if you saw the interview, but Jimmy Butler like did an interview where somebody was calling him like old, and he was like, "I'm not old." And then the reporter was like, "Well, you're older than when you were in your prime." And Jimmy Butler goes, "No shit, you're older than you were yesterday, weren't you?" And so like
Yeah, I saw that.
that was him trying to like do a rebuttal of like, I'm not old, I'm not an old player. And then like a few days later, he blew out his ACL, and it's like he tried to tell you, dude. So,
It's
but yeah,
tough time.
yeah.
I mean, I'll say this. Oh, also, I'll just add on. I was listening to like Draymond Green and his podcast, like a clip from it, and he was
Mm,
basically saying that he was told that, hey, you might be traded.
yeah,
So you know, I think, even if he isn't traded, just the fact that the Warriors are willing to tell Draymond, directly, like saying, "Hey, we want to let you know that you might be traded." I mean, that's obviously the writing in the wall that
mm,
this dynasty, this Warriors team constructed as we know it is over, and it's been over, and now all the last towers, other than Steph Curry. I mean, obviously,
yeah,
I don't think they'd ever move him, but all the towers are falling. Clay, Draymond maybe next, whatever it ends up being. I think Porzingis is a good piece for them. The issue is with him is just injuries and staying on the court, and he's just not someone that you can rely on. And I say this as a Celtics fan, because he was a key piece for us in our 24 run. And the thing is, like when he was out there, he was unbelievable. He played out of his mind well, and but I think we could have done it. I think we could have won without him, and we were winning without him because I think he missed a huge chunk of the playoffs. He comes back like game 3 in the finals, and like we were already up 2-0, and he played great. But the thing about him is, I think he's going to raise the ceiling. I just don't know what this Warriors team is really looking to do here. Are we competing now? It's kind of hard to say like we're rebuilding and we're gonna try and have a longer term scope when you have 37-year-old Steph Curry still on the roster. So
mm-hmm.
I don't know what they're doing. I mean, it seems to me like they're trying to compete and they're trying to figure out a way to do it. But if that's the case, then we got to move on we got to get Jimmy Butler traded. I don't they're kind of sending mixed signals to me about certain things. And I've always said that I don't think Steve Kerr is a good coach for developing players. And,
Yeah,
and I think, so it's hard for me to know, like if they were to do a rebuild and, like how is that? I don't think that would go well for them either. It doesn't really seem like they can decide. And in terms of from the Hawk side, I agree with what you said, so I won't like add anything on. I think it's a good move for them.
mm-hmm. The next one I have for sort of lightning round is Jared McCain went to OKC. We sort of had a rant last episode about OKC, and I've talked many times about OKC, so I won't get into it. But they're once again just getting even better. They're adding Jared McCain, They had a bunch of draft picks stocked up for it, so they were able to do it. It looks like that's really the only thing that 76ers got in return was draft picks. And so I can see why the 76ers got rid of him because, one, he was like injured. But two, again, this may be a hot take, but I think this might be, again, sort of writing on the wall, as you said, for the Warriors, that I think we see Embiid maybe leaving soon. And I think that we see the process potentially restarting for the 76ers. I think they're going to start trading away Embiid, trading away other pieces, stocking up on those draft picks, just like they did the trade for Jared McCain. And they just basically, like I said, restart the process, stock up on draft picks, try and recreate what OKC did, even though you can't really recreate what OKC did, and just try and, build a team from the bottom up.
You think Paul George is out?
Oh, yeah, Paul George, bro, I'm not even going to lie. I forgot for a minute that he was even on the 76ers.
I mean, dude, unfortunate. I don't know. Did you see the news that he was using ketamine for mental health? So
yeah, he was drug tested and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I think personally that's pretty shitty because that's not a performance enhancer. That's purely he was using it for mental health. We don't need to like dive into that, but kind of feel bad for that,
I mean, not to go on a tangent and off topic, but I made a video that I thought was a really made video, but it doesn't have that many views, unfortunately. I wish it did. So if you're watching this far in the podcast, go and check this video out that I'm about to mention. But it's titled "Adam Silver is Too Soft to Control the League" or something like that. And I basically compared David Stern to Adam Silver, and I talk about why so many of the problems of the NBA exist now because Adam Silver, his go-to, and again, I made a compilation of it in the video, just so that like it's not just me saying this, like you actually get the visual behind it. Anytime any problem happens in the league, the go-to is we're looking into it or we're investigating it. And I literally had a 2-minute clip of just uninterrupted Adam Silver being like, we're looking into it, we're investigating, we're looking into it, we're investigating, we're looking in, like 2 minutes uninterrupted of him saying that. And then the opposite is David Stern, where there's a clip of David Stern saying, hey, why did you veto the Chris Paul Lakers trade? And David Stern in response gives no fucks, and he said, well, I can ask you a similar question. Why do you beat your wife? And so like David Stern gives no fucks, and meanwhile Adam Silver, like, he just lets stuff happen. And I bring that up because one of the points I said in that video is relevant to what we're talking about. Adam Silver repealed like 90% of like the drug regulations on the league. Like when David Stern was commissioner, he was like, I want absolutely no substances, like all that. And then Adam Silver repealed like a whole bunch of that. He said like they're not even going to test for marijuana. If somehow they do test for marijuana and it comes up, you're not going to be penalized for marijuana. Like, and like that's crazy to think about, where like Adam Silver as the league commissioner is just like, yeah, you can smoke weed, I don't give a fuck. Like, that's crazy. No other sports commissioner would be like, yeah, you can just go blaze it in the back before the game and we won't care. Like, you know what I mean? So I don't know. It's just kind of crazy to think about that he's that like easygoing with things. But back to the 76ers and everything. Paul George, I think he's another one of those players like the ones we've talked about where his career is kind of towards the end. Again, like when he was on the Clippers, everybody was like, Kawhi and Paul George are going to be elite, and then they couldn't stay healthy. So he's sort of like another AD character where it's like, oh, well, if he stays healthy and then surprise, surprise, he plays 50 games out of the season. So I think that the 76ers cut their losses because of that. They go all in on draft picks and they just restart. So
what do you just real quick, like what do you think their long-term piece then is Maxey, and we're building around Maxey? Is that kind of like what you see with them?
I would love if that was the case. I don't know if they're going to do that because, to be honest, I don't have that much confidence in the 76ers to do the smart thing.
Yeah.
Because as I've said, I've made that exact point. I've said, hey, if you're the 76ers, you need to build around Maxey. And that was before they got Paul George. And so I was like, hey, build around Maxey. Forget about Embiid being your first option. Make Maxey your first option. And what do? They went and got Paul George, and I'm like, you fucking idiots. And like I did a whole podcast episode about that, about how I was like, you're just taking more touches away from Maxey. So to answer your question, that's basically the answer. I would love if they did. I think it's the smart thing to do. Do I think they'll do it? No, because they fuck every single thing that they do up. So yeah.
That's basically like what I was gonna go into saying is I think you made some really good points about the smart thing to do, and let's get rid of Embiid, let's get rid of Paul George, and let's try and get picks. And I just don't think they're gonna. Maybe Paul George. I don't think they're getting rid of Embiid. I don't know. I think for some reason, like this team is just obsessed with the process, and let's try
Yeah.
it for until like it burns to the ground. And it burned to the ground. I mean, Joel Embiid is at the point now where he's playing all right now, but like
Yeah.
he's clearly on borrowed time with his knees. He's not really like moving well, and he's figuring out ways to score. But the fact that like they're still riding with it, and this is still what they're
Yeah.
doing, and it's not like I think they honestly just kind of gave up on Jared McCain, and I'm not saying it was the wrong trade for them. I'm just saying I don't think they necessarily made that trade for the right reasons. I'm pretty sure like someone like from their organization was like, yeah, we sold high, like, or something. Like they were just some like rash remark about Jared McCain, and I think they just gave up on him, and I think what they're
Yeah.
gonna try and do is continue competing with this core. I think maybe they'll trade Paul George at some point and try and like, but they're gonna fill it with guys in their prime, or they're gonna fill it with like win now guys. And I think
Yeah.
and in terms of like OKC, I mean, they can do no wrong. It pissed me off.
Yeah.
We need to like go into that more. Obviously, that was a great move for them. But yeah, I don't just like you. I think the Sixers did that trade for the wrong reason, and I don't think they're actually gonna do anything with it. So
Yeah.
that's kinda where I stand.
Yeah. So I have two more for you that I'll try and be quick with. Keon Ellis, because we referenced that last episode, especially with Sohan.
Mm.
And then the last one will be, what was it? JJJ to the Jazz. Which one do you want to start with first?
I throw in the Anthony Simons and Vucevic trade just as a Celtics fan.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, you can talk about it as a Celtics fan. To be honest, I don't keep up much with the Bulls because I've talked about how them and the Kings are basically synonymous with each other, and how they haven't done too much. The only thing I know with that trade is that people are making jokes that Kenny Beecham basically took Sham's job for that trade, and stuff like that. But from what I've seen, he's like a decent center, and I know y'all lost again. Y'all didn't have Porzingis anymore, so I think y'all are trying to replace that. But again, I could just be talking out of my ass for that because I don't know much about the I don't know much about Vucevic. I'll openly admit that. And I don't know how well your team is, again, because I don't know much about the player that y'all got. I don't know how your team is constructed for that player just because I don't know much about the player itself. So you can go into it. I'll just, let you go.
Yeah, no, I'll keep it quick, but the biggest thing, and all Celtics fans kind of knew it, is, we had one real big hole, which was at that center position. And Neemias Queta is a good player, and he was kind of filling it as best as he really could, and I think he'll be a great backup. But realistically, this fills a huge gap for us on the Celtics that we don't need Vucevic to be a star, especially now. I don't know if you saw the news. Tatum is officially assigned to start practicing with the G League teams. That's moving forward. We just need Vucevic to be a solid big man. He's got good touchdown low. He can space the floor. I think he's what we needed. I just
Hmm.
want to add on, like, I'm so happy for Anthony Simons because Jalen Brown even said it, like, that kid is way too good for the role he was playing in Boston.
Hmm.
Um, he is such a good scorer, and we had him obviously coming off the bench and not playing like crazy minutes, and you got a lot of mouths to feed in Boston, and he played his role phenomenally well. But the second he gets to Chicago, he's a starter. He drops 22
Hmm.
on 6 threes in his first game. Like that guy's in a much better place for him, and I think he's one of those guys where I'm much happier seeing him on a bad team just balling out. So those are all my thoughts.
Yeah. And I think the Bulls, like, as much crap as I give the Bulls, I think it's a good place where a lot of, like, younger players can really shine. Like Kobe
Mm.
White, like, has expanded his career with the Bulls. Like, he's more well known, and then they went and traded him, which I thought was crazy.
Mm.
Because I thought he was like the soul, like he was like the first option, like the soul and heart behind the Bulls, and they traded him. Um, but they got Ayo Dosunmu, um, and because he was really good. I think it was University of Indiana, no, Illinois. Sorry, University of Illinois. I believe it was. I watched him in college, and he was really good. They got Yabusele, who I think is really decent. So I think it is like um, a place where players can show like the capabilities that they have with more minutes, kind of as you said with Simons. So that's a good point. Um, I want to go ahead and move into the. I, I I did ask you if you wanted to do Keon Ellis or JJJ first, but I'm gonna kind of make the executive decision instead and go with JJJ just because we ended off a little bit earlier with the 76ers and how I think the 76ers, if they were smart, would restart the process around Maxi and things like that. I think a similar thing is going to happen with the Grizzlies, where I think Ja is next on the chopping block because he was already in trade rumors and everything to begin with. But now you've gotten rid of your second piece, and they got some draft picks for it. And so I think Ja Morant is going to be probably gone soon as well. And they're going to try and see what they can get and just again sort of rebuild that whole team because they've gotten rid of Desmond Bain, they got rid of Dylan Brooks, they got rid of JJJ. Pretty much the only player that's left there now is Ja Morant. So once you get rid of him, then you got basically a clean slate and rebuild the whole team. So that's kind of what I see on the horizon. So and then with the Jazz, I think it helps them because they have somebody behind Lowry Markkinen now. So but yeah, that's basically my quick takes for that trade.
Yeah, I mean, I mostly agree. The only thing I'll add is kind of I'm a lot lower on JJJ than I think a lot of people are. I watched like a YouTube video a while back about like why he's such a bad rebounder, and
Mm-hmm.
it's and part of it is yeah he a lot of times he's switchable and he'll get onto the perimeter, but a lot of it is just like this guy does not know how to be physical and he doesn't really post up well. He's not very strong down low. Now, granted, he's a good shot blocker, but I just don't think like when you say him behind Laurie Markkinen, I think a lot of teams. I mean, even post Steven Adams injury, like
Mm-hmm.
the Houston Rockets would get all the offensive rebounds in the world over a team like that, and I just don't. I'm the only like real thing I want to add is just like a hot take that I'm just not that high on JJJ, and I think I think in certain roles he could be a real solid contributor, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he adds on quite as much to the Jazz as maybe other people think. But in terms of the Grizzlies, I think you're right. I just don't know. I don't know where they're going either. They better trade John Morant because if they want to build around him, I think they've already tried it and you try it again, and it's just insanity if they do.
Yeah. Um. So ending it off with Keon Ellis. Again, I won't have too many takes for this, which is why again it's sort of like a lightning round to end us off. But I talked before when we talked about Sohan and how There could be like a Sohan for Keon trade or whatever the case is. I talked about how Keon Ellis is basically he's valued for his defense over his offense, right? And so aside from the Cavs side of it, for the Kings side of it, they got rid of him for DeAndre Hunter. And my first initial reaction to that, because of what we talked about last time, was that the Kings are trying to go all in on offense now. And they've just continued to get rid of their defense. And I really think that that's going to hurt them because the only way you can afford to get rid of defense is if your offense makes up for it. And it doesn't on the Kings. I really don't think you should get rid of defense in general, but that's a whole other topic. Because again, the Bucks, they had Drew Holiday added defense for the Bucks. They won their championship, and in that same year, the Nets. Like I bring this up as you can never get rid of defense. The Nets went basically all in on offense and did that exact thing. Like their strategy was, we'll let you score 199, but we're gonna score 200, and that was basically their strategy. And of course, they were injured and everything, but it ultimately didn't work out. And so I am of the notion that you should hold on to whatever defense you have. You should never get rid of defense because even if you get again, an amazing player for it, I don't think whatever offense you get is going to outweigh the defense that you lose. Unless, of course, the player you're trading for averages 30 a night, but that's a different conversation because then you're trading for a top 5 player in the league. But again, Drew Holiday, Dame trade, I bring it up almost every episode. If you're playing the drinking game, take a shot. But I really think that trading away defense is one of the worst things that any team can do because it is almost never made up from what the return is. So, but that's basically my take. And then the Cavs, they got Dennis Schroeder, who I made a whole joke about how he is the quote-unquote bag of chips of the league because he's been traded. He's used as a trade balancer for every team. But I saw somebody respond to my take of that, and I didn't disagree with him because even in the short when I called him a bag of chips, I was like, it's crazy that he is a bag of chips or considered that because he's still averaging 10 points a game. He's still doing this, he's still doing that. And somebody said had he not been traded every single year, he could have been a Hall of Fame contender. And I was like, I don't know necessarily Hall of Fame contender, but I do feel like he could have still been up there in the All-Stars and all this. He has the opportunity to be a really great player, but not a single fan base or front office has any loyalty to him, which is why he's sort of become the punching bag of the league. But I still think his stats, they're not it's not like they traded for a two-way player to even out the trade. He still has meaningful stats, but everybody acts oh yeah, they got Dennis Schroeder, who cares? But it's he still puts up minutes. He's not a two-way player. He's not a G League player. He averages 10 points a game, this and that, So
yeah, and off the bench. I mean, I bet he kicks himself, every single night about that contract that he passed up.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy, but I can understand why teams are so quick to trade him because he's one of those guys where he's going to come off the bench and he's going to make an impact, but he's not going to make enough of an impact to where you're really going to be all that impressed and you're going to become a contender. He's not a TJ McConnell, for example, where TJ McConnell is another guy who's coming in and yeah, he might drop 10 points, but he's also an energy guy. He's a defensive guy. He makes an impact. TJ McConnell is a championship level bench player, whereas Dennis Schroeder is a solid scorer off the bench, and he's a great asset to trade. I just don't think I totally understand why these teams pass him around. Yeah. For his sake, I'd like for him to settle somewhere, but I don't see a good defined role for him on a contender. That's kind of the issue. I think that's why he gets moved around is could you really see a team winning with Dennis Schroeder as your seventh man? I mean, I don't think so, but he shouldn't be any less than a seventh, eighth man, and he shouldn't be much more either. So he just kind of is in a weird spot, I think.
Yeah. What do you think about the other side of it? Like I brought up, like the Keon Ellis
Yeah.
moving away from the Kings and stuff like that, and an option for DeAndre Hunter instead.
No, I mean I'd agree. I think like the Lakers are a good example right now of, offensive versus defensive trade-off. I don't know all that much about Keon, but like I think it's totally I think it would have been fine to trade him if we're gonna go for someone maybe who either like is younger and has the potential to become like a solid 3 and D, or maybe like I would have liked to see them go for someone who's like real 3 and D as opposed to Hunter's. He's not like the worst defender, but he's
Yeah.
really just he is that offensive spark. So I don't think it was crazy to trade him. I don't think he was really like doing all that much for them to be impressed by him and really to
Mm-hmm.
want him around. But I just don't. I think it's one of those trades where it's like I understand why they got rid of him. I don't think they traded him for the right guy. So
Yeah.
I mostly agree with what you're saying.
Yeah. All right. Well, with that being said, that's gonna start to bring us to a close for episode 89 of Nathan Burnett. Once again, go and check out the merch. The merch code, as we mentioned earlier, is going to be I was right, IWASRITE. So go check that out down in the description. Jonah's links will be down there as well, so go and check him out. We've had him on for like the last 3 or 4 episodes, and if you've been watching the last 3 or 4 episodes, he clearly knows ball. He knows what he's talking about, all that good stuff. So go check him out. All that good stuff. Help support him. And Jonah, you have anything else? Or are you good to close it out?
I mean, you can find me at Hardwood Hot Takes. It's not Jonah, but other than that, I appreciate
Oh
you having me
yeah,
on.
that's completely my fault. I forgot to
Oh,
say
no,
your
you're
handle
good.
at the
You're good.
beginning.
No, you're totally fine. You're totally fine. If you're here till now, you might as well give both of us some love. But good conversation. Always a blast to be here. So I appreciate it.
Yeah, I feel so bad now. I completely forgot to say hardwood hot takes at the start.
You're good. Oh, dude. You're
But
fine. You're
all
fine.
of his stuff will be down in the description. So I will make it up to you, Jonah. I will put a pinned comment with your handle of hardwood hot takes because I forgot to say it at the beginning. But yeah, go and check him out. Hardwood hot takes, all that good stuff, and I think that'll be it. So Nathan Burnett, episode 89.